Different's great, but being different for the sake of being different, I'm not a big fan of, right? If you just want to be different for the sake
technology
of it. But
increased, I would hide behind it.
And you start to hear some of their challenges, and yes.
Because it speaks to the core of who you are and what drives you forward. Because what makes you different is what drives you.
All right, there we go. What's going on, everyone? It's Steve Spiro, the Master Connector, coming at you live and direct. I am flying solo today, although we do have an amazing guest. But my partner in crime, Rob G, he's got some personal stuff going on, some great, exciting news. Maybe he'll share on a show next week. But I am coming at you live and direct and solo as a solo host today. But I'm excited. And listen, if you're joining us for the first time, welcome to the Master Connector Show. We are all about connection. We are all about building community. We're all about authenticity. We're all about having the grit to overcome obstacles, and we're all about being others focused. And the reason we're here doing this with you, for you, is we really believe in serving and giving back. And, you know, I've had a very crazy life, background, story, whatever. And, you know, I just see how people have reached down and helped me and pulled me up, and anything I could do to really add value and help others is just, it's, to me, that's what it's all about. It's what drives me to be a speaker, what drives me to do the show. And I know Rob G feels the exact same way. So if you're watching this for the first time, please get in the comments. You know, we want to know you're here, right? Let us know where you're coming in from, you know, your city, state, country, right? And share this with your community. If you like what you hear, like it, share it, tell people about it. And also, we want to get your questions, so put them in the comments. But, you know, again, we're all about connection, right? It's the Master Connector Show. And so get in the comments and connect with each other. We want to hear from you, right? Unfortunately, we don't know if you are tuning in unless you get in the comments. I know LinkedIn has an audio show that they do, an audio program, whatever, and you could see who's on there. But with the live video, you can't. So get in there. And of course, we love and appreciate you, Yolanda. Who loves your baby? Yeah, I got to get my lollipop for you, you know. And so for those who don't know, there's a guy named Telly Savalas, Kojak. That's the reference. He was probably on media, in the media world back in the 70s and 80s. He's the first guy that, like, other than like maybe Yul Brynner, who sported the shaved head and got away with it and looked really good. So, but she's tuning in from Texas. I know that. So I think she's from. Oh, I always forget. Anyway, I'm sure she'll tell us where she's from. But great to have you on the show. But we're excited. So, you know, listen, today we're going to talk about a very cool topic. So, and I want to kind of frame it for you guys here, right? So, you know, being real often means embracing vulnerability, you know, which can feel risky, right? But it's the foundation for being genuine and building connections, right? To me, that's what it's all about. You know, I love speaking on stages about this because, you know, authenticity is the bridge that connects you to others in a way that facades, you know, no facade can never do, right? I mean, I know that, you know, I'm not a big guy that likes to try to pretend I'm this or I did that for a little while and it was ugly, right? But you know, listen, starting a podcast sort of like this is a podcast / show, right? To me, is one of the best ways to showcase your real self, right? And your authentic self. And anyone with a message or a passion or expertise should consider creating one. And we may touch on that a little bit, especially because of the guests we have on today, right? A podcast can become a lucrative endeavor when you align it with your brand and use strategies like sponsorship, affiliate marketing, and paid membership. We haven't done any of that, right? By the way, we're just all about serving here. Although we do have a sponsor that sponsors our episodes every now and then. But listen, the beauty of being real is that it attracts the right opportunities and people who genuinely resonate with your message. You know, we're going to speak about this, but failure is inevitable, right? I love speaking about failing forward and you just, you know, you learn you're either winning or you're learning, right? But authenticity it gives you the resilience and clarity to pivot with purpose when things don't go as planned, right? When you show up authentically, your audience sees you as relatable and trustworthy, which creates loyal followers, right? I mean, that's why we're blessed to have the people on our, that follow our show and have incredible community that we're blessed with, because they see our vulnerability and our trustworthiness and why we're here in our hearts, right? The cost of being real might include facing criticism or rejection, but the rewards, like deeper connections and lasting impact, are priceless, right? I mean, to me, one of the best things I've been able to do is build connections, but there's incredible reward behind that. And I just had a great call with my friend Dean. I call him Dino, and we just blessed each other by just speaking to each other, and that's just through real human connection, right? But realness isn't just a strategy; it's an essence of leadership, and it positions you to create a legacy that truly matters. And to me, true success is not how much money you made, how many things you have, but how many people are better off because you were here. And I believe that's the legacy that we leave behind. It's a mindset. So if you're ready for us to introduce our amazing guest, which I'm going to talk about in a minute, type in the comments right now, hashtag let's go, and we'll go ahead and bring him to the stage. So I'm gonna read this. You guys know I'm dyslexic. Again, I'm authentic. I tell you what's going on for me. But Josh Wilson is an accomplished podcast host, renowned for his contributions to developing top-tier media brands. He has skillfully produced more than 2,000 interviews featuring guests including investors, CEOs, and globally recognized thought leaders. His intensive experience in media has not only honed his expertise, but also cultivated an expansive network and solidified robust alliances in the business world. This wealth of connections and insights position Josh uniquely in the industry, right? Josh serves as a capital market advisor and member of the IPO team at Green Tree Financial Group, where it's a family office based on belief that the U.S. capital markets are the best and most efficient in the world. Green Tree leverages its expertise to assist high growth companies accessing the U.S. capital markets through a public listing. In addition to navigating the clients through the complexity of public listing, Green Tree also assists numerous public companies with ongoing periodic compliance filing needs. Right. Beyond his professional achievements, Josh is deeply committed to philanthropic efforts, has served as an advisor and partner to various Christian ministries with a focus on initiatives supporting men, prison ministry, and local fire service chaplains. His dedication to these causes reflect a deep-seated passion for community service and meaningful impact in the lives of others. Josh's involvement in these ministries is a testament to his belief in the power of faith and service to foster positive change and support. So now you see through what I just said, why we have him on the show. So if you're ready, please welcome to the stage, Mr. Josh or Joshua Wilson. What's up, Josh?
Good day, Mr. Steve. Wow. You're a good reader. Good job. I can't do that. I cannot read and speak at the same time. So you can do better than me.
It's a miracle from a dyslexic who I remember when I was a kid, I would literally read in class when they asked me, and I would stutter and get beat red. And there's still some of that every now and then. I get a little bit of that PSTD from that. But it's just, I talked to my mom about it the other day when we were together for the holidays. And she's like, well, you talk about, right, neuroplasticity and, rewiring the brain, and your brain can actually adapt, right? It can grow. So, yeah, I appreciate the kind words. But this is great to have you on here, Josh. I'm anticipating this for 2 weeks now. I know we've been posting and building it up, and I'm sure you're going to bless the community in an incredible way. By the way, I want to welcome Gerson. Looks like maybe he might be maybe on your network. I don't know, but he's on the call here with us on the show with us. Yolanda says, "Let's go." We got Ari on here. Hey, Ari, good to see you. And of course, Yolanda is welcoming you. She's so amazing. And you get some love from Ari as well. But let's dig into it, right? Let's get into this. The people on here, because they want to know about being real. So community, if you can, you know how this works, right? Get in the comments, type in hashtag real. We believe in LinkedIn participants, not LinkedIn lurkers. So get in there. And so let's go with the question here. What does being truly authentic in business and life cost? And is it worth it?
Yeah, that's a good question, Steve. I guess first let's do a little bit of an update. This is something super recent that happened over the holiday. I wasn't able to announce it to the world, but we finished out our training for investment banking, and I now moved with a group that focuses on IPOs and post-public funding. So if you're looking at my LinkedIn, you'll be able to see that group that I work with, and I support family offices like you shared earlier, family offices and institutional investors. But Steve, this was not, I never expected to be here. I'm wearing a sports coat and a nice shirt right now to honor and respect the people I work with. But I grew up on a construction site, swinging hammers, digging ditches. The PhD that I earned was a post hole digger. All right, so that's what I, you know,
I love that.
yeah. And if you look through, we're going to talk about the cost of being real. One of the areas that I share this with is on my LinkedIn. If you look through my LinkedIn, the most common message I get on LinkedIn is congrats on the new job. Congrats on the new opportunity, because I've had a ton of different pivots in my life, and I leave those on there to remind myself to be humble from my beginnings, but also to let people in on the journey. And we'll talk about this coming up, but like this is not an area that I thought I would be. Life just kind of brought me here, and I'm thankful for it.
Right.
But you posed the question, what is the cost of being real? Well, I'll tell you, when you start to get real, you start to take off the mask. It's the scariest event that I've ever experienced. And amongst my jobs, I've been in some very dangerous jobs in my life. I was a firefighter medic running into burning buildings. I was a professional alligator wrestler, right? And then I've worked in investments and speculative stuff, venture capital, private equity, kind of fill in the gaps there.
By the way, that all relates, right? Alligator wrestler, private equity. I mean, it's all kind of related, right?
Yeah, I never worked with the sharks on Shark Tank, but I've definitely worked with some alligators. But the cost of being real, when I grew up in a family. I grew up in a family where one side of the family was super religious, and we've had we could go into that a little bit. And then my dad's side of the family was kind of like sex, drugs, rock and roll. And I was just a master of, a chameleon, being able to put a mask on and enter any place and do anything. So I think the real big cost is that first time you remove the mask publicly or to people, because it's scary, it's frightening, and sometimes it doesn't land well. So I think the real cost of it is fear, a major hit to the pride and ego, and then sometimes it costs you financially.
Love it. Appreciate that. Well, I don't love the fact it cost you that, but I love what you're saying, right? For sure. And just want to acknowledge, it looks like Samuel was having some challenges, or Aria's having some challenges, so hopped over to the YouTube. But I want to welcome Paul Eterno, who I know has a spiritual background as well, and so as a faith-based guy, and appreciate you being on here with us, Paul, for sure. And he says this. Okay, internet activity connectivity. Okay, okay. All right, he's having some issues as well, I guess. So I don't know. Hopefully, everyone is doing okay here. So apologies if you were getting some, but you can go back later and watch this, and you can go on a Spotify and Apple Podcasts, because we also reside there after we're done being live. But let's keep the ball rolling. I want to kind of check in on some more questions here. So, I know podcasting is big for you. So community, if you can type in hashtag podcast, and we'd love to hear about who should consider starting a podcast, and what benefits does it bring to building a personal brand.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a great question. I started podcasting probably 8 or 9 years ago. I built maybe 20 or so different brands, sold one of them, did about 2,000 interviews. Now build it or strategically for other people in partnerships with them. Who should have a podcast? Like when you gave the intro early on, you said, building a loyal following. To be honest, I don't know if everybody is set up to be a leader and have a following, to be honest. And sometimes I feel like that's me, but I do have something in my heart that I feel like I need to share. And if that's the case for someone out there that has something that they feel like they want to share, I think that's important enough to start the podcast, to invest in it or do whatever. You might have one follower, you might have none. For a long time, not even my mom knew I did it. So like that's part of the jam. But I would say if you feel like an internal tug towards it, I would say pay attention to that. And if you're in the world of business to business or business to investor, I'd really strongly consider a podcast show.
100%. And just the fact that you have a show,
Mhm.
there's sort of a built-in credibility. It opens doors for you, right? You can also leverage having a podcast too, if you want to connect with certain high-level people that may not normally give you quote unquote the time of the day. Now you can say, hey, love to have you on my podcast. There's that extra piece of it. And then, through serving them and then showcasing what you're about and who you're about, you could then that can also open additional doors for you. So, and then there was also, I haven't done it, but you could also leverage the content you're creating on however long you're doing your podcast. So it's weekly like we do or whatnot. And you can actually do micro content from it. So there's a lot of good things that you could do, whether you got a great following or not. It's just a great opportunity to just share and bless people and open some doors. And here's the last thing, I think it's Gladwell, Malcolm Gladwell talks about the 10,000 hours theory, which he didn't make up. I'm sure he just made it more of a, something that the rest of the world knows about. But the more you speak, the better you get at it, right? So it's another opportunity for you to kind of craft your communication skills. So, all right, but listen, there's some people that say, yeah, this is all great, but let's talk money, right? Give me the money, right? And I don't think you and I are both money motivated, but we're not going to throw it away. And I believe money is a tool. It can do good for good people and evil for bad people. It's just a tool. So, but let's talk about it, right? Let's talk about money. And my question to you, so community, type in #money, if you would, please. But here's the question, right? How do people successfully monetize a podcast, even in its early stages, please?
Oh, I thought you were the first question, the cost of being real. I thought you were going to say, how much is your net worth before taxes? And, how much you make per year? But, even that, and we'll go into the open book versus being real. I know that you created a question around that.
Sure.
But when it comes to monetization, let's start with that. Monetization of podcast shows or YouTube channels or media in general. It could be a blog or it could be an email newsletter, whatever your form is. There's different ways to monetize it. I think a lot of people approach it wrong, to be honest. And I did this wrong for the first probably 5 years of it. Is you build this podcast or YouTube channel and you try to get all these likes and comments, you try to get all these viewers, and then you're like, one day I'm going to get all of this, which is a never ending trail. And then I'm going to start selling sponsorships or I'm going to start selling, affiliate marketing, or you're doing all these things. And what happens over time is you realize you could have a huge audience. And I had a show that was iTunes top of charts and I went broke building it. At one point, I couldn't afford the $20 a month hosting fee. So I had to shut it down. It was diapers or that. And I chose diapers to keep the house clean. So monetization, I think the best way to monetize a podcast show is to build it in a way that supports your existing business model. The podcast itself is not the business model. It supports the business model. Let me give you an example. If you're a real estate broker, right, you could try to be TikTok famous and sell little widgets and gadgets or maybe pads of pieces of paper. Why not instead do podcast interviews where you interview other real estate investors, find out what they like, what they don't like, how they make decisions? First of all, you're going to get better as a business broker or a real estate broker interviewing investors. Two, after the show, they might go, hey, if you find one of these deals, let me know and I'll buy it. So you immediately get a customer, right? So that supports the business model. It's not the business model.
Love that. So it looks like Ari put a question in, and unless you understand it, I don't understand that question. So how do you find quests? Question for you both. Do you get that? Or
I think we'll talk about both quest and guest. I think I think it might have been how do you find guest?
Okay. See that? I'm a literal guy. You're learning that. I'm talking about the cost of being real. that is a real life fact. I am very literal. Okay. So
Yeah.
anyway,
But let's
yes,
answer
sure.
the error though. How do you find quests? How do you find something important enough doing? I think it's an internal tug. I think that God wires us each uniquely. And once we
Yeah.
figure out how God wires us, we figure out who our people are. And once we know who our people are, we know how to serve. And that's our quest, how to find our quest. That was a freebie. How do I find guests? Mostly LinkedIn and email places, a lot of investor channels or communities. And it's pretty simple. I mean, you could call people all day. I used to be in B2B sales, call 100 people a day, and hopefully, you get a 5%, yes rate on having an initial conversation. With a podcast show, would you like to be on a podcast show? Conversion rates go up to 20, 30, 40%. So how do you find
Yeah.
guests? Invite them to your podcast show, show them some cool stuff, and make them feel good. Lift
Yeah.
people up, and they tend to respond well to that.
So I'll just some of the strategies that I've done is in very similar, right? So we're all looking to grow our connections, our network, and I look to be very strategic. So when I'm looking to grow, I'm looking for people. One part of what I do is I look for people that have a number one, they've got an incredible profile, credible background, and they're pretty well connected. So I look for that, and those are often the people. And I'm not going to just go ahead and pitch them on my podcast, on my show, although I've done that occasionally. But like what we did, Josh, right? We got on a call first, and it felt good. Like, hey, would you like to be on my show? Because sometimes you might have somebody who looks like they'd be a great guest, and then if you actually get to talk to them, a real jerk, and you're like, man, I don't know, maybe because this is for me, this is live, right? So if I just invite you and I never have a conversation first, which that's not my policy is to have a conversation first. I'm not going to have anyone that I don't feel good about on the show, but so I would just recommend connect with quality people, and then you once you get on a connect call with them, see if it makes sense to have them as a guest. But I mean, we're booked out way into 2025 because to your point, Josh, there's no shortage of people that you can get, quality people. And I don't think we've ever had, and I blow his mind because I'm the one that brings on the guests with how he's like, how do you find these quality people? They're out there. You just got to look, right? You got to, it's the law of of attraction, right? What you believe you're going to get. And I know that there's a lot of great people out there. So, all right, listen, we talked about it in before we went live. We want to talk a little bit about failure. Okay. So, obviously there's a lot of, there's something to be said about that, right? Failing forward. And, I heard, reading a book, actually, it's on the happiness factor, I think it's called. And he talks about failing up, not falling, falling up, not falling down, but falling up. So learning from failure and from falling. But I want to hear your take on it. So what strategies can someone use to pivot out of failure and turn it into an opportunity for growth, right? And again, community, please type in hashtag failure if you can, so we can get some engagement going here.
Yeah. Mike Tyson says this: everybody has a plan until they step in the ring and get punched in the face.
That's it.
Man, when I was first getting started in, building businesses, I thought, you get the business card, get the license, and then people start calling, they kick down your door and become that. One of my first big financial business failures was in the real estate industry. I built $8 million worth of spec homes. Wow, man, it's hard even saying that. I was 25 years old, and I was, I built this group, and then it failed in 2005, 6, 7. The real estate industry just collapsed, and that was my first big failure. And man, I don't know if I didn't have the all of the tools that I have now, but failure, man, I crawled into a little hole, man. I wanted to retreat. Then fast forward, a few decades after that, I learned how to fail a little bit faster, fail a little bit smaller, like the movie Patriot, aim small, miss small. So you get better at failing, and you get better at mitigating your risk and failing smaller, but it still hurts, especially as you get older, and especially if you have kids and you have wife and a mortgage or rent or cars. I've seen a few cars leave on the back of tow trucks. I've walked up to notes on the door. And I've had to go through, myself, I went through bankruptcy, and, those kind of failures, they stick with you. And in the world that I'm in the financial industry, anybody can look at my background and they can see the big B on my account, right? So when it comes to failing, one is, for me, first thing I want to do is hide, because it's scary, it hurts, it's a kick to my pride, and I'm a man of ego and pride that I try to tame and give over to the Lord. But like, it's scary and it hurts. How do you get through that? Man, I think one of the things is when you do admit failure, and when you talk about it, and when you share it with trusted advisors who like you, and if you're real with them prior to the failure, they'll be with you after the failure. And you don't know how many times I sat in a room like ready to cry, and admitting to them that I'm about to go bankrupt or I can't pay my bills, and they go, "Join the club, man." And these are billionaires or very wealthy people, and they're like, "Listen, man, you did it. We're proud of you." And that was just like a whole, and one person even said, "Now I could trust you," right? Unless you've gone through that kind of big failure, a lot of people won't even bet on you because they don't know how you're going to recover or live. So I think, how do you get through it? The only way to get through it is with people, I
Love
think.
it. Yeah. Yeah. It's funny, for a long time, I felt like this world would be great if it wasn't for people, but I've learned to come on the other side of that, and, learn to embrace it and love people, and just appreciate the diversity and the amazingness of people. But I want to squeeze in one thing before we get there. I know we talked off, in the green room. So community, type in #book, and we're going to get into this real quick. And then maybe you could kind of just give a quick one on it, and then wrap up with any final thoughts and best way to reach people. But type in #book, community. And here it is, right? What's the difference between being an open book and being real?
Yeah. So I interviewed 2,000 people, and I always start with, what question could I not ask you, right? And the amount of people that say, "Hey, man, I'm an open book," and I understand what they're saying, but there's a difference between being real and being an open book. The amount of crazy stuff that has gone through my head, and you can't control your thoughts at all times. The amount of fears, the amount of depression, anxieties, self-doubt, self-worth. If I were to speak everything that went through this brain of mine, and I'm being an open book to people, it would scare everybody away, including myself. So, I think that there's power of life and death in the tongue, right? So I think that there's a difference between just saying anything and being real, because we've all been around those people who have no filter, and it's exhausting to be around them. And it's also harmful. It's hurtful. Sometimes I have these feelings. I have 3 beautiful kids that I love. It's not always pure thoughts that I believe towards those kids. Sometimes I want to call them little crap heads, and but I love them. So this idea of open book, and in the world of authenticity and transparency, yeah, I think that's true. But I also think that there's wisdom in having a healthy filter, and it's healthy for relationships too. There's a difference also between filtering and lying.
Right.
So I believe in being honest, being transparent, being a man of integrity. So that's the difference between open book and being real, I think.
Love it. Great. Well, listen, obviously the community has been totally blessed by you, but what's the best way that they could reach you and connect with you?
Yeah, I think on LinkedIn is a great place. I got rid of all my other social channels. So LinkedIn's probably a good place. Joshua Wilson, I'm sure you'll have the links there. And yeah, I would love to connect. And, if there's ways for us to work together or bless each other, man, I'm in. I'd be happy to explore.
Absolutely. That's great. Well, we really, really appreciate you. I'm going to have you go in the green room real quick. Hopefully you can hang around for a few minutes, and blessed having you on here with us. So thank you so much, Josh, for really adding tremendous value for our community. Talk soon. Awesome. Well, that was great. Obviously, just incredible. And I'm just so blessed that we have amazing guests here. And thank you, Ari, for putting in Josh's LinkedIn profile there. But listen, I want to say a couple things as we're closing down. Number one, make sure that you check out my book, The Tao of a Master Connector. I know it's coming to holiday season. I know it's a shameless plug, but if you want to think of a good book, the book of knowledge, the book of motivation, inspiration, feel free to get my book. You can message me if you need links to get there, but shameless plug there. But next week, we're going to have incredible episode 191 on the 11th of December as we get closer to the holidays. I know, Hanukkah is the festival of lights. And I know in the Christian faith, Christmas lights and all that. So this is going to be on how to ignite your light with Luz Gonzalez. It's going to be a great show. So let me just put that in the so you have a graphic of that. So, and go, make sure to go to the masterconnector.show. And you can see all the upcoming episodes. My man, Rob G, has put together that and keeps it updated. And we're booked well out into 2025. So just excited about that. If you're looking to be a sponsor, you can also learn about what it is to sponsor a show by going to masterconnector.show. So check it out. It's going to be incredible. So, hey, I want to end with one closing thought here, right? And we all know the Brene Brown, right? She did incredible TEDx talk and, written books, but, she's a researcher and a storyteller, and she faced a pivotal moment when her TEDx talk, The Power of Vulnerability, went viral. And though she was very terrified by sudden spotlight, Brown chose to embrace her real, imperfect self, fears, flaws, and it all in front of a global audience. Her courage to be authentic not only transformed her career, but also inspired millions to see vulnerability as a strength, proving that being real might cost you comfort, but rewards you with the impact and connection. So listen, folks, let's embrace our strengths and our weaknesses and our belief in ourselves so we can shine our light. So we'll see you next week.
And you start to hear some of their challenges, and yes,
because it speaks to the core of who you are and what drives you forward. Because what makes you different is what drives you.